Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to my friends across the pond. Welcome to Option Pit. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. So we've got a lot going on today, but before I begin, I want to implore you to join me and Hannah on Thursday. You won't regret it. 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be revealing something huge, and I mean big, something we've never done here before at Option Pit. Brand new, and it is going to be a game changer, I think, for our traders. So if you haven't joined, if you haven't signed up, you can click the link here that we are posting in here in the room. Come on, why are you not populating you? You can click the link here that we're posting in the room. It's pinned to the top. There's really no reason not to be in attendance. And again, you won't regret it. All right. Have I ever wasted your time? Of course not. Click the link. So today I want to talk about some interesting stuff. There's been big headlines around Reddit squeezes, short squeezes in stocks out of Reddit. Who's heard about what's going on in Kohl's and in Open Door Technologies and in AEO and our good friend Sydney Sweeney? Everybody here familiar with what's been going on there? Yeah, well, famously, I mean, we're all aware of what happened with GameStop about 4 years ago. It was in early 2021. GameStop, which is still in business magically, went from a company that was borderline worthless, worth less than $1, to several $100s adjusted for splits, to kind of back where it is now at $20. But that squeeze was caused by a bunch of Redditors saying, let's all buy GameStop. If you want to show my screen, you can see the move happen right here. Right? It goes from basically a dead company to, oh my, to kind of back down, gets another lift, and then it's just kind of hung around these levels for some time. All right? We've had a couple of these squeezes back in 2021. Well, if you look at Open Door Technologies, kind of a similar move, obviously smaller scale, but this was worth less than $1. And the next thing you know, it's over $5, and now it's back down to $2. This is kind of the nature of those quote unquote Reddit squeezes. But here's the part that I think a lot of people don't realize. These Reddit squeezes, these Reddit short squeezes, all right, are extremely rare. But short squeezes happen all the time. Short squeezes happen all the time. So, like, a lot of people are like, what is a short squeeze, Mark? How does something like that happen? Well, let's take a look at a name that gets shorted some. It's a good company, but definitely there are people that are trying to short this thing into oblivion because they don't think it's worth what it's currently valued at. And that, so we'll take a look at USAR, USA Rare Earth. People are saying this is not a $1.2 billion company with 29 employees that loses $20 million. That is, so there are some famous shorters out there, right? I'm sure you've all heard of, Ackman and the HLF mess. Hindenburg used to do this. So when I think a stock is going to go down, So let's use like a big company. Let's say I'm saying to myself, AMD is not a $280 billion company. Yes, I know it's been on a run, but it should not be this valuable. What do I do? Well, I go to my clearing firm. So many of you might not know this, but your broker in most cases is two different entities. One, it's your broker. Your broker is the one that when you send an order, they execute it for you. That's the part you interact with as a trader. However, that is about 10% of the plumbing of your account. Most, every night you get kind of a reconciliation of all your trades. How much money did you make? How much money did you lose? What is the net balance of your account? What are you holding? And where are those assets being held? Those are held not by your broker, but by the clearing firm that is probably also owned by your broker. So, for instance, Interactive Brokers has Interactive Brokers and Interactive Brokers Clearing. Thinkorswim uses Schwab's Clearing. Robinhood uses, I believe, Apex. There's different clearing firms, but clearing firms are the most important part of trading that you really never interact with if you're not a professional. All right, so now circling back to short squeezes, AMD is overpriced. I think the stock is going to go down, so I want to short it. I want to sell short. How does that process work? Well, let's say William has 50,000 shares of AMD. Congratulations, William. All right. Congratulations, William. You're sitting on 50,000 shares of AMD. Way to go. And folks, I'm not saying AMD should go down. I'm using it as an example. So William has his stock where? The stock that he owns. Where is that sitting? That sits at the clearing firm. So William hasn't put any restrictions on his stock, which means the clearing firm is free to lend it out. So it starts with Williams 50,000 shares. It's 50,000 AMD. All right. Now these are being held at the clearing firm. All right. So then the clearing firm loans me, so that's SCB, this is me, loans me 50,000 shares. So I'm borrowing 50,000 shares of stock from the clearing firm. This could be, I don't know, Merrill Lynch. Then I go around and I sell my 50,000 shares. All right, now I sit back and wait. All right, I borrowed 50,000 shares and I sold them. I sit back and wait. Then over the course of several days, AMD goes from 179 down to 160. So now 179 here. Now I buy back the 50,000 shares for 160. All right. And then I return it back to the clearing firm, who then is back to holding it for William. And in the process, so I sold at 179. I bought back for 160. I did it 50,000 times. Cleared a cool 950,000 bucks. And William was none the wiser. Now, this process works really smoothly in a name like AMD. Why? Because AMD, this number is important. Float. Write this number down. Float. And float is the amount of shares that are available to trade. Float is the amount of shares that are available to trade. AMD has 1.6 billion shares outstanding. So, folks, I should do that, William, or Rahad. So, folks, is 50,000 shares a lot when you compare it to the 1.6 billion shares outstanding? No, it is not. All right, now let's circle back to USAR. USAR has 96 million shares outstanding. Only 53 million of them are available to trade. Only 53 million of them are available to trade. So if I sell 50,000 shares of USAR, would you agree that that's a little bit more meaningful? Yeah. I mean, compare the differences. 50,000 divided by 1.6 billion. Even in percentage terms, like look at what you're talking about in terms of percent. Now, 50,000 divided by 53 million. I'm not sure why it's giving me that. 1 second. It's doing something wrong. I don't know. Anyway, the point is you're dealing with 0.1% of the float. Thank you, Scavenger. Yeah, you're dealing with about 0.1% of the float, which is actually a meaningful number. All right, now we've got the idea. I am now playing in more dangerous waters when I'm doing that short sailing process, the one I just showed you here. But in this time, we're doing USAR. And this game is even more dangerous than that. So one, there's less stock for me to borrow. Two, the stock's only 15 bucks. But I'm planning on it going to 1, for instance. Okay, now here's where things can take a turn for me as a trader trying to sell short USAR into oblivion. All right, so here's William with his 50,000 shares of USAR. There, I wrote in cursive for you, William. All right, and it's at the clearing firm. And SCB is borrowing it. It's me. Now, what if William, who's smart, sees all the short float? So I've got the 50,000 shares. I go down. I sell them. There are two scenarios I start getting into some trouble. One, what if William decides, hey, I've got too much USAR and I want to sell it. What if William doesn't want to own as much USAR anymore? The USAR stock I am borrowing. What happens? Well, I'm borrowing it. William wants to get rid of it. Guess what? I have to buy back my 50,000 shares when I don't want. And I need to return it back to the clearing firm, who will then return to William to sell. Becomes a problem for me as a shorter, doesn't it? All right. 2, what if I'm not the only one shorting USAR? What if it's not just me, it's Goldman, it's Bank of America, it's a lot of shorts. There's tons and tons of short float. And then USAR gets some positive news from around rare earth stuff. And people get excited about USAR. I'll show you what happens when that happens. You get a move like this. We go to the 1 month. You get a move where on July 9th, USAR is $9.84. And then over the course of several days, it's over 16 bucks. All right. And now I'm borrowing, I'm on margin, right? So as the stock is going up, my margin's going up. I may have run into some real problems here. And the final way this can become a problem for me is, what if William has a vested interest in USR or really likes the company? He can actually say, don't lend my shares. He can say, don't lend my shares. In which case, again, I have to buy back my stock and return it. And these things can happen. The two of these, don't lend my stock out, and some positive news. This process in stocks that you've never heard of or stocks you aren't overly familiar with can become a real problem. So, folks, I want to show you a trade that I just did. Because this scenario, the one that I've laid out here, this is not caused by a bunch of people on Reddit. This is not caused because of Sydney Sweeney. This is caused by the mechanics in the market, and it happens every day. Every day, there is at least one or two short squeezes out in the market. Let me show you one. This is a trade that developed yesterday. This is Sarepta Pharmaceuticals. All right, they've had some FDA problems. They've had some drug efficacy problems. You name it. And the short interest in this, the amount of people that think Sarepta is going much lower, is really high. And there's only 91 million shares to borrow on this $1.3 billion company. Now, I'm not making a comment on anything Sarepta does, the efficacy of their drugs, but there are opportunities to go long worthless companies that will make you so much money. So take a look. I'm going to tighten this up to 1 month. Sarepta is going up and up. They get that bad news on FDA. And when this type of stuff happens, this is when the shorters like to come in. A bunch of people are borrowing the stock, selling it, trying to push it lower. Sarepta drops from $17, hitting a low of 10. But then we started to see the squeeze developing. Really picked up on Monday. And I'm going to teach you some tricks on how to see these things coming next time I'm here. So remember, this only has 90 million shares to borrow. And traders are trying to short it. Now, What started this catalyst? There were rumors, and it was up nicely on Monday. There were rumors they're going to start being able to open up some of their drug. People that sold, traders that sold up here started thinking, down here, maybe it is interesting. And so you see the stock start to go up, shorts start to get squeezed. They get the positive news that they are going to be using the drug with people walking. Next thing you know, the stock goes from $11 to over 13. And now this morning, it peaked at over $18. Well, because I was able to see this trade coming, and this is part of what I'm working on, I was able to buy the Sarepta 14.5 calls for $1.05, and I sold them at $3.30 this morning. So this is something that you won't hear about on CNBC, on Fox Business or Bloomberg or anything. But the mechanics of the market, if you understand them, you can turn that into a lot of money very quickly without a lot of cash to start. Folks, this is why you need to be here on Thursday. What I just kind of walked you through, I promise you Hannah's going to do a better job explaining it than I do. And we're going to dig into how to take advantage of this, how to make money off of something like Sarepta. And that is why it's so important you join me on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. You'll be extremely happy with your time. I'm going to be back on Thursday, and I'm going to show you a few hints to look for when some of these mechanics might be starting to form. But if you don't sign up for Thursday at 7 p.m., you're going to regret it, because you're going to be missing out on just an absolutely incredible opportunity to learn and potentially take advantage of the opportunity that I'm going to be presenting. So please join me. And I look forward to seeing all of you. I'll see you guys Thursday morning, and I will see many of you Thursday night. All right, everybody. That's all my time. It is 10:30. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. I'll see you guys Thursday night.